Hey everybody. I had someone ask me yesterday what my thoughts are on grief, and this video is going to be a little bit longer um, because grief is very multifaceted, and I'm going to try to think of like different categories for it, really. I've been thinking about it all day long, and then I've avoided making this video because grief is just something that I feel very deeply, and I have been conditioned to avoid it as much as I can. And I find in my late 30s, and I'll be 41 this year, ugh, that if I don't deal with things like really hard emotions, they could catch up with me. And what good am I if I don't deal with my emotions and I try to meet my kiddos halfway? So with grief, I feel like there's really no definition for grief other than it's one of the hardest human experiences that we ever have to go through. My position on life and death has changed a lot over the years. I personally believe that we're all energetic, like everything is energy. I do believe in heaven, but I also believe that there are multiple dimensions that we cross or go through before we truly get there. And the reason I say that is because I really believe that we have souls, and our souls are sovereign, meaning we live in this collective balance, but also we, as souls, have a choice on whether or not we want to come here to Earth to learn something, to figure something out, to carry with us whenever we do pass on. I do believe that we all have a life purpose and we do have different missions on Earth, but ultimately we're here to help each other through what can really be a struggle here whenever we're all here together as souls. When it comes to grief with the passing of a loved one, I think it really depends on the person that you are, the kind of soul that you are, what your experiences have been. The passing of a loved one also depends on how close you were to this person, how much of an influence they had on you, how happy they made you, how sad they made you. And I started experiencing really big deaths in 2007 when my nanny died, and I think I had just turned 22. And then I didn't experience any deaths for family members or friends that were close to me until about 2012. And 2011, 2012 was a very tumultuous time for me, figuring out who I was. And there were a lot of just multiple deaths, especially on my dad's side of the family, that, for another video, grief struck me differently because I was alienated from that part of my family for a very long time during my childhood. And so I felt like the family members that had passed on, I really didn't get to know as well as I would have liked. My grandpa was the perfect example of that. And my grandpa passed away 2 days after my birthday and a month before my youngest son was born. And I've always thought of my birthday as like not a very good day. um, just because things seem to just really culminate around that time of the year. Uh, so I think, I mean, my aunt's death and my uncle's death really affected me. My grandpa's death really affected me. And then my mom passed away in 2016. And that one was very complicated and very traumatic for me. I understand that I might be presenting this from kind of a biased viewpoint because looking back and doing the therapy and doing the work that I've had to do for many, many years now, I understand that even though we're human beings, we're flawed. And we don't get really an instruction manual whenever we're here. And I'm the oldest child in my family, so I felt that it was my responsibility to forgive my parents and be the golden child of my family. And it created just this hypervigilance of I have to be right or I have to make good grades and all of the anxiety-inducing things because I had to mature really fast and I had to grow up. And I felt back when my mom was alive that I was not allowed to get angry with her because I was punished one way or another if I were to get angry with her, or I would feel guilty about getting angry with her. And during those times that I felt very alone and I felt like I didn't have a good mother role model that was looking out for me. My aunt was that for me. And my aunt just passed away a few days ago, so it's been really hard for me. I've just the tears don't come on as much right now, but it's still really hard when I think about it because my aunt was just so fun-loving, and I felt safe with her when I didn't feel safe with my mom. My aunt was just a gentle spirit, but she had this sense of like spontaneity and good troublemaking. So like I felt safe getting in trouble with my aunt when I was not allowed to get in trouble with my mom. Like the first time I drove a car was with my aunt when I was 14 and my mom didn't know. So it was mine and my aunt's secret. And that was like the coolest thing ever. And then I would do really embarrassing, dumb things that my aunt would make fun of me for later. And my cousin told me the other day that I put a smile on her face every time she thought about me. So I think that's pretty cool. And I mean, we had such fun times together. And when I was in a very bad situation that my mom put my brother and I through with her from 8 years old to nearly 13, the memory that sticks out the most for me was when I would go to my aunt's house, which wasn't very often because we lived about 400 miles away from her at one point, and then we just didn't have any transportation whenever we moved to Central Texas. So I remember going to spend Christmas with my aunt and my cousins, and they lived in this beautiful house that just felt like home. The living room was huge. They had this huge fireplace. My cousins, when it came to my aunt, they were allowed to be who they wanted to be. And they were allowed to be kids. And that was something that I felt like I wasn't able to experience. So whenever I went over there, it was just, there was an element of jealousy, I think. Not because like my cousins had a way better life than me, but because I felt like safety and comfort were things that I did not deserve to experience for about 5 years. And my aunt provided that for me. My aunt provided laughter. I remember going down the main road and the city that she used to live in and listening to that song by Jefferson Airplane that's like, nothing's gonna stop us now. And listening to Lionel Richie, which is going to take me a very long time to listen to again because All Night Long was one of her favorite songs, and my cousin played it for her while she was in the hospital in the ICU. But I mean, her face would just light up, but she just had this like calming presence about her that I desperately needed in a woman. She was very grounding. I mean, she was a Scorpio, so very watery element, but it was more of just this gentle acceptance, and she was very quiet when she spoke most of the time, but her laugh was just so contagious. And so when I talk about my aunt and my mom, my mom brought a lot of chaos into my life that I was never really allowed to process because of so many complex emotions. And I felt that if I allowed myself these bad feelings towards my mom, that I would get in trouble. And I'm still working through that complicated grief with my mom, even though she's been gone for 10 years. The reason my aunt's passing hits me so heavily is because she was that stability. She was the ocean to my fire. She was just self to my soul. And she was my reason to laugh on a lot of days that I wanted to give up. And I'm a person who feels things very deeply. And I know that my aunt did too. But my aunt was very quiet about it, whereas my mom was very fiery about it. And could be very erratic sometimes. So it's kind of like dealing with two different chapters of my life closing, and now there are no adult women on my mom's side anymore. And I used to remember my mom and the good memories that I had with her with my aunt. And I used to be able to just joke around and reminisce with her. And I think one of the things that's been really difficult for me is like I've kept track of our Instagram messages. And the last one I got from her was on my mom's birthday, which was December 6th. And it was a meme video about how these ladies are like taking this bungee class, but then they're running into each other, like, you know, how bumper cars run into each other. But anyway, so they were having like this fun time in this bungee class, and they were dying laughing. And I thought it was so funny that she sent that to me, because that is absolutely something that like she and I would do. Like we would try stuff, and then we would be complete idiots because we would be laughing so hard about something that we're screwing up on later on. And so I made a comment about, oh my God, what a nightmare that would be. Making a complete ass of ourselves. But I mean, I know that we would like laugh about it really, really hard. And I said, you tell me the time, day, and place, and I will be there. And she said, deal. And that was the last time I talked to her. Or talked with her. I don't mean to be emotional, but I feel like it's important for me to be vulnerable and let my emotions out now. I don't like to. But this has been kind of like the closure of some joy in my life. And I just started really understanding what true joy was, I feel. And it took me way too long in my life to understand what it is. And she really is the person that I learned it from. And I always remember watching her with my cousins and how great of a mom she was to them and how supportive she was and how much she loved them and her like steadfastness and giving them hugs and reassurance gently. And I did not get that growing up. So when I talk about grief, when it comes to passed on loved ones, it's such a complex thing to talk about because it really depends on the experience that you had with that person. But if you do the reflection and if you work on the hurt aspect of it, you learn, if you're willing, to be more present in the moment with people, to appreciate what you have when you have it. And when someone is gone from your life permanently, it changes you. My cousin asked me if the pain ever will go away, and I don't really know how to answer that because I'm not one of those people that is just a believer in time heals all wounds. It doesn't. And I will be the first to tell people that it does not heal all wounds. I believed that a very, very, very long time ago, and it made me hopeful for something that was never going to happen for me. What time does, and time is not linear, just like grief is not linear. And I understand that now, the older I get. It's kind of like, I hate this analogy, but it's kind of like a scab. When you've cut yourself really kind of like deep and there's like a scab that grows over it. Like your body is healing over time, but like the scar is still going to be there. That is how I think of the pain fading away a little bit. And if you have nerve damage underneath that scar, like it's going to either be numb or it's going to hurt still, like even years later. And the pain will catch up with you every now and then, and probably in the most inopportune times. But if you reflect on things, if you truly want to learn from that experience, it the gratefulness of the memory that you had with those people and the acceptance of the lessons that losing them teaches you will make it not hurt as badly. And for those of you who are listening and you're really like in that moment of like, I just lost somebody and I feel like my life is over, I don't understand exactly what you're feeling or what you're going through, but I can tell you for me, when I lost my mom, I was not allowed to say goodbye to my mom. There were a lot of unfinished things I feel that were between us, and there were a lot of things that I didn't get to say to my mom. One of them was that I love her very, very much, and I was proud that she made it for as long as she did, because I know that there were a lot of times that she wanted to give up. I don't think that I got to show my mom as much grace as I wanted to, because when my mom was going through a lot of her medical issues, I was going through a lot of personal issues, and I was just surviving, trying to raise my oldest son at the time, who was my only son, working 2 jobs and going to grad school and paying my bills and trying to put food on the table and try to spend time with him as much as I could. And so there were just these different dynamics that were going on that I have learned now after witnessing her passing and like being gone permanently. I think that I would have done better under a lot of different circumstances with my mom. And what her death taught me was I needed to be more present with my boys, because that was one thing that I was very angry with my mom about growing up, was that my mom was not emotionally available for me. She wasn't physically available a lot of the time. And so from those lessons of me being angry at my mom and grieving my mom at the same time, really reflecting on those things I was really mad at my mom about, and made me look at my life and realize the patterns that I was following that my mom was doing, and make a change in my life to where my kids wouldn't be angry with me one day if they looked back at their childhood and they were like, oh, well, mom wasn't there. I never saw my mom. Or she wasn't emotionally available for me when I needed her. And it made me more patient with my kids. Her death made me realize that I really was the one to break all the freaking generational cycles when it comes to family, and to teach my children how to respect themselves and how to respect women and treat women one day, and how to love themselves and be safe, knowing at home with mom they could be who they want to be and who they are, and not expect to get barked at because if I ask them to do something and they don't do it, if they don't understand it and that's why they're not doing it, then I explain things instead of getting angry at them and telling them that they're in trouble. I also learned from my mom that I needed to take better care of myself physically, and that I needed to follow doctor's orders while doing the research and going to doctors whom I trust, and not just resorting to surgery because a doctor tells me so. And in that, there's this intuition and self-guidance that I learned from that too. My mom had so many surgeries and she was on so many pain medications. And now I'm going through some health issues and I refuse to be put on the amount of prescription medications that my mom is on. I refuse to let pain get me down. And I refuse to get treatment for something if I haven't done the research first, or if it might be done by someone who I don't trust or I don't know very well. These things are very important to me. I want to be here for my kids. I want to be here for my husband. I want to be here for my family as long as I can. I want to be able to, if my boys decide to have grandkids one day and if they decide that they want to be married or have a partner one day, I want to be there for them. I want to see my kids be adults and I want to be able to support them. And when they come to me needing advice, I want to be able to give them sound advice and help them to be good men. Because I really feel like that's part of the reason I'm here too, was because of toxic masculinity. And I refuse to raise my children in that societal conditioning. Anyway, I'm going on a tangent. The night that my mom died, my heart was racing. I couldn't stop crying. I couldn't breathe. I felt like as soon as I heard the words, "she's gone," my whole world disintegrated before my eyes. It was like my heart literally swelled up and I could feel it shattering. And it was like my soul was shattering, honestly. And at that time, it was because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what I looked like without my mom. I didn't know what life looked like without my mom. And it was just this grayness and sadness that washed over me. And all I remember is, it was just like a fog. Like a fog just enveloped my life. That's how I can describe it. But at the same time, my blood is boiling. My heart's racing. Like, I feel like I have to call my aunt. I have to call my dad. I have to call whoever I can at 11 o'clock at night to let them know that my mom is gone. I had 3 days of bereavement leave from a very highly stressful retail job. And then I was expected to go back on a Saturday like nothing had happened. By the way, can we please advocate for a week bereavement leave, like paid bereavement leave for a week instead of 3 days? Because let's face it, 3 days is not enough. It should be a minimum of a week of bereavement leave, especially when you are an immediate family member who is trying to process all of the emotions while you're trying to fill out paperwork and trying to get your person either cremated or buried. Like, that just makes no sense to me. So if someone's willing to advocate for longer bereavement leave that is paid for, that would be amazing. I would be so grateful. And going back to my story, I've been really good all of my life, putting on a brave face and a happy face and really either dissociating my emotions or compartmentalizing. And I think that I had compartmentalized so much from other things that it was like I broke. My body freaking broke, and I could feel it breaking from the inside out. Like, I remember going to work on Saturday, and my manager came up to me and was like, "Are you okay?" And it was like as soon as he asked me if I was okay, that's just when the tears started coming, and I went into the office, and I was just like, I cannot be here today. Like, I cannot be here today. And I ran away. Like, to me, it was like, why am I still even in this city whenever everybody else had moved away? So not only was I grieving my mom, I was angry at her, which is one of the stages of grief. But also there was resentment there that I had never really truly felt until it surfaced up. And it was a turning point of me having to be really honest with myself. But I ran away from that honesty. And I thought it was all about money. And I went and got a promotion for the company that I worked for. And I physically killed myself. You guys. Like, I've been doing manual labor all of my life. And that job pretty much destroyed me. Because I was so busy trying to ignore the grief of my mom's death. And when there's a reason why they call it disease. You are at dis-ease with something that you're not paying attention to when it comes to your body and your mind. And then your body starts sending up these signals saying, hey, like, you're not okay. You're not okay. Like, we're not going to let you, like, try to ignore stuff. Like, we're going to wake you up and we're going to make you feel this pain, this ungodly amount of pain, because you have literally been running away from facing your shadow. You've been running away from sitting in your feeling and feeling that guilt, that shame, that anger, that grief. You're not acknowledging it. So, hey, if you're not going to acknowledge the things that you need to work on emotionally, then we're going to make you acknowledge the things that you're putting yourself through physically. And I wish I could say that worked. Excuse me. But it didn't. It worked for a little bit after the time that had passed and I wasn't acknowledging it. But then there were other things that were happening in my life. And by this time I had 2 boys now. And I am not the kind of mother where, I know that a lot of people will disagree with this. I'm not the kind of mom that's going to hide myself and my emotions from my boys. That's just, I'm not going to do it. Number one, I don't think it's healthy, because I remember what it was like whenever I was growing up and I was told that vulnerability was a weakness. No, it's a strength. It takes someone very brave to be vulnerable about their emotions and their feelings. Number 2, my boys need to understand that it's not healthy to suppress their emotions, and it's okay to cry. My 10-year-old son, when my aunt died, all I could do was cry, and he would come over to me and just hug me and say, Mom, it's okay to cry. So that was one of the moments where I thought I was doing good raising my boys. But 2, I mean, on that note, if we don't show our kids how we process our emotions, what example are we giving them? You know, we can be tough and we can cry at the same time. If they see that we're being numb to something that should really be hurting us, then our kids watch us so closely. If they seem like, or if they see something that's like, oh my God, this is like really traumatic. Why is she not crying about this? Even if I were to go cry in the bedroom after they go to sleep, they would still think that I'm not processing in front of them. So to them, it would be like, well, Mom doesn't process emotions. Therefore, I'm not allowed to even feel emotions because Mom doesn't do it. So I am very transparent about my emotions when it comes to my kids. And I would like to believe that I have evolved into showing not so good emotions when it comes to anger to my kids. I will explain my emotion and then why I'm angry, and then talk myself through that, and then talk them through that, what that might look like for them. There are ways to show our kids show our kids how to be emotionally healthy human beings without instilling the value in them that they have to be silent about everything because that is considered strength. No. Especially when it comes to boys. Because most men that are my age are in the process of unlearning that because that's what they were raised in. And now there's this crazy anger that they have to deal with because they don't know where the rage is coming from. So, going back to my point about grief with the death of a loved one, it feels different for everybody. The 5 stages of grief, bargaining, anger, denial, acceptance, and depression, those are not going to happen in this beautiful slope. It's not going to be that, okay, well, I'm really sad about this and I'm shocked about this when it happens first. And then I'm going to be in denial. And then I'm going to be in anger. And then I'm going to be in bargaining. And then I'm going to accept this. No. That's not my experience. Sometimes it looks like shock. Sometimes it looks like anger. Then sometimes it looks like bargaining. After my mom died, I got home that night around 11:30 and I texted my mom. And I knew that she wasn't going to answer. I did that for 2 days. And then I even called her voicemail. And I think it was more of just to hear her voice because I knew that was going to be like the last time I was going to hear her voice. Or I thought it was going to be the last time I heard her voice. That's a different subject. But just the finality of everything didn't make sense to me. It didn't resonate with me. And so it was like I was trying to contact her in any way. And that would look irrational for anyone who hasn't experienced the death of a really close loved one. There are going to be times when you go from one stage of grief to another, and it's not, there are going to be some days where you're happy and then you feel guilty about being happy, and we shouldn't. I don't believe that, our loved ones, whenever they pass away, they're not thinking, oh my God, I'm going to come haunt this person from the other side if they're happy. I've thought about that. I've really thought about that because my cousin asked me if she should feel guilty for being happy. And I hadn't thought about that, but that's really been on my mind lately. And I understand the guilt in being happy whenever they're not here anymore physically. But I think that the more I think about it, the more we find happiness after someone has just passed on. Whenever we find joy in a coping skill, or we find joy in community, or watching our kids do something. Especially my aunt, I think that she would be very considerate and just be like, no, I want you to be happy in this moment. And just because they're gone doesn't mean we have to suffer. It's not required of us to suffer whenever our loved ones pass on. The feelings that we feel, the tears that we cry are really for us, I feel. The older I get, the more I realize that, no, that's for my release. I'm going to miss them. I'm going to miss their physical presence. But I really do feel like they're on another dimension. They're part of my soul family. There was a reason why they were here with me on earth. Why can't there be a reason for them to still be with me, just in a different way? And so in moments of grief, when you feel like you have just experienced this catastrophic loss, let it teach you something. Let it help you remember what you appreciated about those people the most, let there be gratefulness in the time that you got to spend with them and the person that they were with you and how they helped shape you. Be grateful for whatever lessons, no matter how painful, no matter how complicated they were. There's, we learn a lesson when we experience new life coming into the world with our babies and our kids, or even when we take in foster kids as our own. It's this some kind of like nurturing or maternal aspect kicks in. And it's a beautiful thing. There's lessons to learn from birth. I just choose to think of death as a rebirth now. And I think since I've been able to reframe that, it's been better for me. But then I'll get stuck in my head and I'll think about all the memories and how, I'll miss them. And I'll miss their hugs and I'll miss their voice and their laugh and their smile. But there is really truth. And my stepmom has told me this. My stepmom was there for me so much when my mom died. That as long as you talk about them and tell stories about them, they're never really gone. They're still alive. And if you look really closely, sometimes, they'll send you signs. I can't tell you how many white feathers I've seen over the years, or, some song on the radio will literally be named Happy Birthday when it's your birthday. Or just, a song that you guys used to listen to on the radio comes on after not hearing it for 5 years. I mean, that is how I come to understand that this is all just energetic and it's all just interdimensional or extra dimensional. Because I have to believe that for me, for my learning of lessons. And I really feel like one of the best ways to deal with grief is to do some journaling. My hands don't work as well as they used to, unfortunately. But I wrote this morning some affirmations, and I think one thing that would be really helpful is writing down some things that they taught you that you really hold dear to your heart, and you strive to embody that from this point forward. Be the things that those who are gone instilled in you. Be the things that you loved most about the person who is no longer here. And my aunt taught me that not everything requires my immediate response. My aunt taught me to take things more gently and more grounded and more calmly, and be about it. Don't just talk about it. My aunt taught me how to laugh and not be embarrassed when I do silly and stupid things, because that's what makes me me, and that's authenticity. And my aunt helped shape me in ways that she probably never understood. And made me, for an Aries to have patience, that's unheard of, usually. But man, my aunt was she was great. My mom was great in her own way too. It's just my mom taught me dysregulation, and my aunt taught me re-regulation. And the re-regulation aspect of that was so good. So when it comes to grief, when it comes to the passing of a loved one, it's okay to cry. It's okay to sleep for a couple of days. It's okay even if you don't feel like eating. It's okay for your kids and your husband or your wife or your partner to see you at your most vulnerable state. It is okay to ask for support. It's okay to be alone for just a little bit, but let your people take care of you. Get out into nature, even if it's raining. Even if it's raining. You can do at least one thing a day that you love to do, or you can see one person that you love to see. And it might be hard at first, but I promise you it helps. And there's no need to feel guilty about bringing sunshine into those really cloudy and gray days. Get those feelings out somehow, whether you cry, whether you scream, whether you just any kind of movement, any kind of dance, cooking or rage cleaning, or whatever gets the stagnation of sadness out of your body, do it. Move those emotions through, because if they stay stuck and you don't process them, it will turn into dis-ease and physical illness and emotional illness and mental illness. And in the world that we're in right now, the world is literally requiring us to work on ourselves and learn the lessons we need for our life purpose and our path, and to help others and help guide others. I firmly believe that with all of my heart. So, sorry this is such a long video, but I really hope that it helps someone who's really struggling right now. And I just want to say that even though it's the new year, we feel guilty that we can't bring our loved ones with us whenever they're gone, but it's not our responsibility to bring them with us. It is our responsibility to remember them if we choose to, if they made us feel good, and to leave the guilt behind and start treasuring life and taking care of ourselves and taking care of others, but also do the work so we can get there fully and authentically and without harm to ourselves or to others. Suffering does not mean you have to stay in self-sabotage or self-harm forever, or at all, really. You can honor someone that's gone by choosing to live the way they lived and honor that with integrity. So, you guys are great. Thank you so much for listening to this, and I really hope you find some peace and joy without guilt this year. Okay? Y'all take care. Have a good night. Bye.